They took his family. They took his freedom. They took his name. But they could not take his meaning. This is not a story about success. This is not a story about fame. This is a story about a man who lost everything and still found a reason to live. Viktor Frankl was born in 1905 in Vienna, Austria. He grew up in a normal Jewish family. As a young man, he was deeply interested in one question: what gives life meaning? This question followed him for his whole life. Frankl became a doctor and a psychiatrist. He worked with people who were depressed, hopeless, and close to suicide. Even before the war, he believed something very simple: life always has meaning, even in pain, even in suffering. In 1942, everything changed. Frankl, his wife, and his parents were sent to concentration camps. He lost his home. He lost his career. He lost his freedom. Soon, he lost his family. Inside the camp, people were treated like numbers, like objects. Hunger was constant. Fear was constant. Death was everywhere. Many people gave up. They stopped caring. They stopped hoping. And they died soon after. Frankl watched this very carefully. He noticed something important. The people who survived were not always the strongest. They were not always the youngest. They were the ones who still had a reason to live, a thought, a future, a meaning. Frankl lost almost everything, but he did not lose his inner freedom. He told himself one thing: everything can be taken from a person, except the choice of how to respond. This idea kept him alive. And in the next part, we will see how Viktor Frankl survived the darkest place on earth, not with power, not with anger, but with meaning. Life inside the concentration camp was built to destroy the human spirit. Every day was the same. Wake up early, stand in the cold, work until exhaustion, eat almost nothing, sleep in fear. People were treated like machines, like bodies without souls. At first, shock was everywhere. New prisoners could not believe what was happening. They thought it was temporary. They thought it would end soon. But days became weeks, weeks became months, and hope slowly disappeared. Frankl noticed how people changed. Some became cruel. They pushed others to survive one more day. Some became empty. They stopped feeling anything. And many simply gave up. When a person gives up inside, the body often follows. But Frankl watched something else as well. Some people stayed human. They shared bread. They spoke kind words. They helped others stand up when they fell. These small actions gave them strength. Frankl understood that suffering itself was not the problem. Meaningless suffering was. When pain has no meaning, it destroys a person. But when a person can connect pain to a purpose, something changes inside. Frankl began to imagine the future. He imagined himself standing in a room after the war, teaching students about the psychology of the camp. He imagined writing a book about what he was living through. This future did not exist yet, but the idea of it gave him strength. Every day, Frankl made a small choice, not what would happen to him. He could not control that, but how he would respond. He chose to observe. He chose to remember. He chose not to become empty.
The camp took almost everything from him, but it could not take his inner world, and this inner world became his shelter. In the next part, we will see the key idea that came from this suffering, an idea that later helped millions of people around the world.
Part 3. Meaning as survival. Frankl slowly understood something very important. People do not survive only with food and strength. They survive with meaning. When a person knows why they live, they can endure almost any how. Meaning did not have to be big. It was often small and quiet. For one person, it was the thought of seeing a loved one again. For another, it was a task not yet finished. For Frankl, it was his work, his ideas, his future book. He saw that people who lost their meaning lost their will. They stopped washing, they stopped standing straight, they stopped caring, and soon their bodies followed their minds. Frankl decided that his suffering would not be empty. If he had to suffer, he would turn suffering into understanding. He told himself that one day this pain would help others live. This gave him inner strength, not happiness, not comfort, but direction. And direction was enough. Frankl also learned that even in the worst conditions, a person still has one freedom, the freedom to choose their attitude. You cannot always choose what happens, but you can choose how you respond. Some days this choice was very small. A kind word, a moment of dignity, a memory. But these small choices protected the soul. Meaning did not remove the pain, but it made the pain bearable. And when the war finally ended, Frankl carried this idea with him, an idea born not in comfort, but in suffering. In the next part, we will see what happened after freedom returned and how one man's experience became a message for the world.
Part 4. After the camp. When the war ended, Viktor Frankl walked out of the camp alive. But freedom did not feel like victory. He returned to Vienna to find an empty world. His parents were gone. His brother was gone. His wife was gone. Almost everyone he loved had died. Freedom did not erase the pain. It only made the loss clearer. Frankl was alone. He had no family, no home as he remembered it, no old life to return to. Many people in his position felt broken forever. Some could not rebuild themselves. Some chose bitterness. Some chose silence. Frankl chose meaning again. He returned to his work as a psychiatrist. He began to speak and write about what he had seen, not as a victim, not as a judge, but as an observer of the human soul. He believed that his suffering now had a responsibility. If he survived, he must use that survival for something good. In a very short time, Frankl wrote a book based on his camp experience. He wrote it quickly, almost without stopping. The book was simple, honest, clear. It did not promise happiness. It did not promise comfort. It offered something stronger, meaning. The idea was clear. Life does not become meaningless because of suffering. Life becomes meaningless only when we stop searching for meaning.
Frankl explained that meaning is different for every person. There is no single answer. Some people find meaning in work, some in love, some in courage during difficult moments. But meaning is always something personal, something chosen. He also warned about a modern problem. When people have comfort but no purpose, they feel empty.
When pain comes, they collapse. Frankl believed that strength is not built in easy times. It is built when a person knows why they live. Slowly, people around the world began to listen. His ideas helped prisoners, patients, soldiers, ordinary people. Not because his life was perfect, but because it was honest. Frankl never said that suffering is good. He said suffering is unavoidable, and when it comes, we can either let it destroy us or let it teach us. He lived many more years. He taught. He listened. He helped others find their own meaning, not by giving answers, but by asking the right questions. And this is what made his story powerful. He did not escape suffering. He transformed it. In the final part, we will step back and look at what Viktor Frankl's life teaches us today, not only about psychology, but about how to live. Part 5. Lessons for Life. This story is not only about survival, it is about how to live. Viktor Frankl's life teaches us something very quiet, but very strong. The first lesson is this: meaning is more important than comfort. Comfort can disappear in one moment. Meaning can stay even in pain. When life becomes difficult, meaning gives direction. The second lesson is about choice. Frankl could not choose his situation, but he always chose his response. This small inner freedom protected him when everything else was taken away. Even today, we cannot control everything, but we can control how we face it. The third lesson is about suffering. Suffering is not something we look for, but when it comes, it does not have to destroy us. It can deepen us. It can teach us. If we give suffering a purpose, it becomes lighter to carry.
The fourth lesson is about responsibility. Frankl believed that life always asks something from us, not happiness, not success, but responsibility. To our work, to others, to the meaning only we can fulfill. And this story also teaches us something important about learning English. Growth happens when you stay active, when you listen, when you speak, when you continue even when it feels slow or difficult. Like life, language grows through patience and purpose. Viktor Frankl did not promise an easy life. He promised a meaningful one. And meaning is something you do not find once. It is something you choose again and again. Thank you for learning English through this story. Listen again. Feel the rhythm. Notice the words. And remember this: no matter the situation, your life always has meaning.
Thanks! Please subscribe and like. Spin a new yarn with us every week. See you there!